Hey buddy, come on, grab a seat and your coffee. The story of Paris is this massive, tangled epic that honestly could fill books upon books, and even then you'd still feel like you're just scratching the surface. People have been calling this spot home for something like 10,000 years now. Picture it, way back in the Stone Age, folks were already lighting campfires right along the Seine, chipping bone into spear tips, stretching out animal skins to dry. But Paris, as we actually think of it, a proper settlement, really kicks off around 250 to 225 BC when this Gallic tribe, the Parisii, shows up. They pick both sides of the river, zero in on what's now the Isle de la Cite area, and decide to call the place Lutetia. Why settle exactly there? Pure smart positioning. Trade routes ran straight through. Stuff coming down from the chilly northern woods. Amber, furs, slaves, salt. And heading the other way from the Mediterranean. Wine, olive oil, fancy glass, perfumes, nice fabrics. The Parisii throw up some wooden bridges linking the banks, build a little fort, and basically own the whole north-south flow. Next thing you know, they're striking their own gold coins. Shiny little things with mounted warriors stamped on them, serrated edges, the works. Holding one of those back then must have felt like carrying around serious street cred. All that shine obviously catches attention. The Roman Republic is expanding like crazy, and Julius Caesar has his eyes on Gaul from 58 BC onward. The Parisii link up with other tribes, throw in with Vercingetorix's big resistance push. The make-or-break moment hits in 52 BC, the Battle of Lutetia. Roman legions roll right up to the gates. The locals and their allies dig in for one last desperate fight, but Roman training and sheer numbers carry the day. City falls. The Romans don't mess around. They rebuild the whole place from the ground up, putting most of the focus on the left bank, Rive Gauche. Classic Roman blueprint, straight grid streets, a solid north-south spine, big open forum in the middle with a temple, a basilica, a speaker's platform. Then in the 1st century AD, they dropped serious money on a gigantic amphitheater, seats 15,000. The city itself only has maybe 7 to 8,000 people at that point. Think about that. Basically room for the entire population plus a ton of visitors to watch gladiator bouts, animal hunts, plays, whatever. They start calling it Lutetia Parisiorum. Through the 2nd and 3rd centuries, the place slowly fills out. More people, busier streets, public baths, aqueducts, better roads, but it's still kind of a mid-tier town next to heavyweights like Lyon, Trier, Cologne. Around the 250s, 270s, this incredible figure walks onto the stage, Saint Denis. He's the one who brings Christianity to the area. Rome is still very much pagan territory. Being Christian can get you killed fast. Denis preaches anyway, wins converts, eventually gets arrested, tortured, and beheaded. And here's where the story turns legendary. Supposedly, he picks up his own severed head and walks something like 6 kilometers to the top of Montmartre Hill. They name the hill Martyrs Hill after that, and later build a church over his grave. That spot is still standing today, the Basilica of Saint Denis, and pretty much every French king ended up buried there. It's one of the very first big Gothic buildings anywhere. Late 3rd, early 4th century, the Roman Golden Era is toast. Barbarian raids pick up speed, Alemanni, Franks, Vandals hammering the frontiers. In Lutetia, people start freaking out. The fancy villas, temples, theater on the left bank get abandoned. Everyone packs what they can carry and bolts to the little island smack in the middle of the river, all the lost site. They rip stones out of the old ruins and throw up a thick defensive wall around the island. That's Paris's first proper city wall. Pretty soon, road markers drop Lutetia and switch to Civitas Parisiorum. Give it 100 years, and it's shortened to Parisius, Parisi, eventually just Paris. By the 5th century, the Western Roman Empire has collapsed completely. Paris is deep in the so-called Dark Ages. Huns, Franks, everybody's taking shots. But the city pulls out a hometown hero, Saint Genevieve. In 451, Attila and his Huns are bearing down on Paris. Genevieve prays, rallies everyone, stockpiles food. Legend says the Huns suddenly veer off. Later, when the Frankish king Childeric puts the city under siege, she's right back in the thick of it, organizing the defense. After she dies, she becomes the official patron saint of Paris. Her remains are still in the pantheon. People still light candles for her. Late 5th century, the Franks take full control of northern Gaul. Their first major king, Clovis I, converts to Christianity in 496, big push from his wife Clotilde, and turns Paris into the symbolic capital of the Frankish realm. Still feels more like a small town than a powerhouse, though real authority is pretty spread out. 751 rolls around, and the Carolingians grab the throne. Charlemagne sets his capital up in Aachen. Paris gets demoted to backwater status. Churches and monasteries stay loaded with wealth, though, which is exactly why the Vikings start circling in the 9th century. Longships come rowing up the Seine, sack the place. One time the city pays them off with a fat ransom. But in 885 to 886, a huge Viking force shows up and lays siege for months. Parisians hold the line, starve but don't break, walls hold firm. Vikings eventually give up and sail away. That stubborn defense reminds everyone why Paris matters strategically. 10th and 11th centuries, new wall goes up on the right bank. Left bank stays a bit exposed. 987, the Capetians take over. Early kings only really rule the immediate Paris region, Ile-de-France, but bit by bit they expand. Paris slowly becomes the real beating heart of France. Religion, trade, learning, power, all converging here. Middle Ages completely reshape the city. Royal palaces sprout up on the Isle de la site, where the Palais de Justice sits now. Left bank turns into the spiritual and brainy district. Huge abbey of Saint-Germain-des-Prés, important abbey of Saint Genevieve. In 1150, the University of Paris gets founded, one of Europe's oldest and most respected. In certain ways, people even argue it's older than Bologna. Students flood in from Scotland, Italy, Germany, England. The Latin Quarter springs up. Streets are full of young guys arguing in Latin. Right bank is pure business. Halley's Market is packed to bursting. Ships tie up at the quays. Workshops turning out leather goods, cloth, forged iron. Merchant houses get taller. Guilds get stronger and more organized. By the late 12th century, the population has exploded so much the old walls can't contain it. King Philip II Augustus goes big, builds a massive stone wall that wraps both banks. Finished in 1213, towers, gates, moats, the lot. He also paves the streets so carts don't sink in mud anymore. And at the northwest corner, he throws up the Louvre, originally a proper fortress, all sharp angles, battlements, moat. Meant purely for defense at first, but down the road it morphs into one of Europe's grandest palaces. Around the same time, the city launches its most ambitious religious project, Notre Dame Cathedral. In the 1160s, Bishop Maurice de Sully basically says the old cathedral is too small and too plain. We need something huge, soaring, breathtaking. First stone laid 1163, altar consecrated 1182. Takes over 200 years to finish, but those towers, stained glass windows, and sculptures dominate the skyline pretty quickly. Pure Gothic masterpiece. Gothic reaches its high point under King Louis IX, St. Louis. From 1241 to 1248, he builds Sainte-Chapelle, the royal chapel meant to hold treasures like the crown of thorns and fragments of the true cross. Almost the entire wall surface is stained glass. Sunlight hits it, and the whole room explodes in color like a rainbow inside. Still one of the most jaw-dropping interiors in the city. Late Middle Ages Paris is easily Europe's biggest city, 200,000 people by the early 1300s. King Charles V builds an even wider wall, 1356 to 1383, and puts up the Bastille fortress on the east side. Later, it becomes the ultimate symbol of revolution. Life, though, is brutal. Society stacked like a very rigid pyramid. Bottom layer, the poor, hoarders, street hawkers, beggars, lepers, orphans. Next up, craftsmen who own their tools and shops, organized into guilds that keep competition low, prices steady, quality high. Then merchants, bankers, moneylenders, maybe 15% of the population, but controlling massive wealth and basically bankrolling the city's expansion. After that, clergy and university students. They operate under separate church law. Smartest ones climb to bishop, cardinal, even pope. Top of the heap, nobility and everyone orbiting the royal court. Too many people crammed together plus open sewers plus rats plus lice equals catastrophe waiting to happen. Black Death arrives 1348. Maybe a quarter or even half the city dies. 50,000 gone fast. Plagues keep coming back, off and on, right into the 1600s. Streets full of bodies, air thick with rot. Violence is everyday stuff. Most killings start over nothing. A dirty look, a sharp word, an unpaid debt. Swords come out, knives go in. Something like 55 to 80% of serious crimes are personal grudges gone lethal. And war is always lurking. The 100 Years' War, 1337 to 1453, tears France apart. English and Burgundian forces burn the countryside, raid right up to Paris. In 1420, the English take the city. 1431, the boy king Henry VI gets crowned king of France inside Notre Dame. Occupation drags on till 1436. Most people flee. Paris turns into a ghost town. When the French finally claw it back, slow recovery starts. By 1500, population is up around 250,000. King Francis I imports the Renaissance, new bridges, fountains, early Hotel de Ville. He adds Hebrew, Greek, math professorships to the university in 1531. Printing presses take off. Late 16th century Paris is printing more books than anywhere else in Europe. Then the Wars of Religion, 1562 to 1598, rip everything apart again. Catholics versus Protestants, pure bloodshed. Paris stays hardcore Catholic. In 1572, Protestant nobles arrive for Henry IV's wedding. Night of August 23rd, the Royal Council says take out the Protestant leaders. Plan goes sideways fast. Catholic mobs rampage through the streets, smash into houses, kill whoever they find. Roughly 3,000 dead in Paris. Killings spread across the country. St. Bartholomew's Day massacre stains history forever. Early 1600s, the city is wrecked. Population down a third. Buildings in rubble. Streets deserted. Henry IV starts the comeback. Builds Place Dauphine. Constructs Pont Neuf. First bridge in Paris with no houses on it. Just open for people and traffic. But in 1610, a religious fanatic stabs him to death on Rue de la Ferronnerie. His son Louis XIII and Marie de Medici pick up the pieces. They build the Luxembourg Palace in 1615. Roman-style churches go blow up. 5 new bridges cross the Seine. Richelieu helps found the Louvre Gallery, Académie Française, Royal Academy of Painting and Sculpture. Paris is clearly on track to become Europe's cultural powerhouse. Louis XIV takes the throne in 1643 at only 5 years old. The Fronde uprisings, 1648 to 1653, scar him badly. Noble rebellions, street battles. He never trusts Paris again, and in 1671 moves the whole court out to Versailles. City keeps expanding anyway. Old walls come down, replaced by broad, tree-lined boulevards. By 1680, population hits 500,000. 1700s, Champs-Élysées gets laid out in a grand straight line from the Tuileries Garden. Inner city, though, is still this warren of narrow, dark, filthy, smelly alleys. Middle class starts hanging out in theaters and cafes. Cafes turn into idea factories. Voltaire, Rousseau, Diderot arguing for hours, working on encyclopedias, quietly tearing down the monarchy. By 1789, Louis XVI's finances are a disaster. Taxes keep climbing, bread prices skyrocket, people are furious. Firing the finance minister lights the fuse. Protests turn into riots. Riots turn into revolution. Paris is ground zero. Bastille gets stormed. Royal family locked up in Tuileries. January 21st, 1793, Louis XVI loses his head to the guillotine at Place de la Révolution. Reign of terror follows. Guillotine works overtime, dozens of heads a day. 1799, young General Napoleon Bonaparte stages a coup, sets up the consulate. 1804, he crowns himself emperor inside Notre Dame. He's dead set on turning Paris into a proper imperial capital. New bridges. Vendôme column with his statue on top starts the Arc de Triomphe to celebrate revolutionary and imperial victories. 1815, Napoleon falls. Allies march in. Bourbons come back. Louis XVIII rules as constitutional monarch. Charles X gets repressive. July 1830, revolution explodes. Decrees choking press freedom, send people into the streets. 3 days of barricade fighting. Charles runs. Citizen king, Louis Philippe takes over. Tricolor flag flies over Hotel de Ville. His time sees industry boom. First big train stations open. Gare du Nord, Gare de Lyon. Population pushing toward 1 million, but poverty and inequality get worse. 1832 uprising inspires Hugo's Les Miserables. February 1848 revolution kicks him out. Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, Napoleon's nephew, wins the presidency. 1851 coup. 1852, he's Emperor Napoleon III. Second Empire starts. Biggest project. Hands Baron Haussmann the job of totally remaking Paris. Haussmann goes all in. City limits pushed out. 12 arrondissements become 20. Medieval alleys torn up for 70. 120-meter wide, tree-lined boulevards. Uniform creamstone facades. Consistent building heights. Balconies. Ironwork. That classic central Paris look is 100% him. 4 huge parks. Butte-Chaumont, Montsuris, Bois de Boulogne, Bois de Vincennes. Gas streetlights everywhere. Clean water supply. Modern sewers. Opera Garnier construction kicks off. Still one of Europe's most stunning theaters. Paris turns into a global finance hub. The Bourse is one of the world's top stock exchanges. Then 1870 Franco-Prussian War hits. Napoleon III captured at Sedan. Prussians besiege Paris. Winter 1870 to 71 is nightmare fuel. Bread replaced by rats, cats, dogs, horses, even zoo elephants and camels. Starvation and cold kill thousands. Surrender January 28, 1871. Prussians leave. Paris Commune takes over. Socialist/anarchist experiment. They try sweeping changes. Women's rights, free schooling, worker co-ops. Lasts barely 2 months. May 1871, bloody week. Government troops retake the city street by street. Barricades, gunfire, thousands killed. Commune crushed. After that, the Belle Époque blooms. 1871 to 1914 Paris at its glittering peak. Mega department stores like Le Bon Marché and Galeries Lafayette invent modern shopping. People window shop and dream. 5 World's Fairs. 1889 fair gets the Eiffel Tower. Meant to be temporary. Everyone laughs at first. Public loves it, so it stays. Art explodes. Monet, Renoir, Degas launch Impressionism. Then Toulouse-Lautrec, Picasso, Matisse, Modigliani. Montmartre and Montparnasse become studios. Poetry readings, music everywhere. 20th century opens, but 1914 World War I starts. September 1914 Germans get within 40 kilometers of Paris. Battle of the Marne. 600 Parisian taxis ferry 6,000 troops to the front. Taxi miracle, legend born. City takes Zeppelin bombs. Shells from the long-range Paris gun 120 kilometers away. After the war, the 1920s roar. Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Gertrude Stein, Joyce, Pound, Stravinsky, Josephine Baker. Jazz clubs everywhere. Black artists headline. Charleston everywhere. 1930s political extremes clash. Fascism versus communism. 1939 World War II. 1940 Germans bypass Maginot Line. Roll into Paris without a fight. Occupation, rationing, shortages, gas masks, shelters. Jewish community hit hardest. Forced yellow stars. Mass deportations. Over 12,000 Parisian Jews sent to Auschwitz. starts. Resistance builds quietly. August 25th, 1944 liberation. General Leclerc's 2nd Armored Division and free French Roland. Streets explode with flags, tears, cheers. Post-war rebuilding. Immigrants arrive from North Africa, Senegal, Mali, Algeria. Suburbs get more diverse. By the 1980s, Paris reclaims its crown as capital of fashion, art, food, film. Modern icons added. Louvre Pyramid, Centre Pompidou, Grande Archie at La Défense. And look, that's the real magic of Paris. It takes punch after punch, plagues, revolutions, occupations, starvation, and somehow gets back up every single time. Nothing has ever managed to kill it for good. The beauty isn't only the stones and bridges and boulevards. It's that stubborn, rebellious, graceful, slightly cocky soul underneath. That's exactly why it's still the most fascinating, most magnetic, most impossible to pin down city on Earth.